The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death. And I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benton here. One of my, as the royal we rolls out of the truck stop onto I-70 in view of taking in the view of a not yet opened Walmart Supercenter. Pre-pandemic, I would be in there shopping, or probably already would have finished my shopping. Well, not now. Post-pandemic 2025, the royal we waits 2 more hours for 6 a.m. for the store to open. Times have changed. The changing of the time. Dumped immediately here into a construction zone, of which there will be many on the east side of Kansas City. Actually, now that I think about it, the highest concentration, I believe, is west of St. Louis. There's a ton of extended, long, mile after mile of 55-mile-an-hour work zone. But we're in it now. But yes, rolling out of the truck stop, and nothing, barring the unforeseen. We're driving about 7 hours, 433 miles, and parking at another truck stop. So to juxtapose with the 14 plus hour per day day before yesterday of 7 total stops, and side mission after side mission seemingly. We're actually doing the job of a long haul trucker. And same thing yesterday. Although yesterday we parked at a warehouse in Denver overnight. Hit the road, drove for about 10 hours, called it, organized the rig a little bit, went to sleep, woke up, morning routine, egg yolk drinks, get the fruit ready to consume en route, and here we are. Although I realize now there's no trash bag in the trash can. I just took the trash out. Failed to install a new liner. Where's the apricot juice going to go? From the can. Oh well. Maybe wait till Walmart. The Walmart stop up ahead. More shoppers in the store. Generally speaking, on the weekends anyway, this close to Christmas. And I prefer to do these things early anyway. Could have done it yesterday. In fact, that Walmart I just took note of, east side of Kansas City here. When Kansas City was dead, there was Basic, very little traffic yesterday. 70 coming through there. But yeah, and I'm one of those people. I think this goes along with being an early morning type of person. When the day's done and the work is done, I'm not interested. Wow, what was that noise? I've little to no interest in doing much of anything else. Yes, could have done the laundry, could have gone to Walmart, could have perhaps ordered Walmart delivery, but the deal there is like these Mountain Valley spring waters. I usually just buy everything they have in stock because it's usually only 4 to 6 of the 6 packs, so 3 liters per package. And almost every time I'm having to make a makeshift ladder and climb up onto the top of the shelf. So whoever's shopping these items, they're just going to look up there, grab maybe the one they can reach, and then it's like, just mark it, it's out of stock or whatever. Certainly can be convenient if I'm not able to leave, as far as the Walmart delivery app. So we'll see. Maybe the stream will be over by then. That gives us a solid 2 hours, but we'll see. Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh, we're out of the construction zone. How about you go ahead and speed up there, Bubba? I look down, it's like, why am I going 56? Oh, yeah, construction. How silly. As far as the title of the stream on Incomprehensibility, I was listening to the Jason Ellis show, this Australian skateboarder, old fogey by skateboarding standards. He used to do a show with Tony Hawk. What was that called? I forget. The Hawk and something, or the something and the Hawk. I don't know. And that show ended. Now, this probably speaks to the, so-called common sense, the word of mouthing, the conventional wisdom, listening to the normie NPCs, because, humans seeking to relate to one another and sort of communicate their plight, on lamenting the end of his show with Tony Hawk, which had, pretty big viewership. And I'm sure they had episodes in the millions of views, I'm assuming. Probably the average episode was hundreds of thousands. To lament that to an acquaintance or perhaps a friend, really, what is the human seeking? Just maybe a little bit of understanding. There's really nothing to be done, but most people will say, oh, well, some may say, well, what's next? That's more of the positive view, I guess. Well, what's next? Of course, I don't know that Mr. Ellis had a plan, but I just envisioned that at some point people were like, oh, well, you can do your own podcast. You can do this and you can do that. And then it's almost like there's no acknowledgement of, well, wait a minute. What about the part where my co-host is world famous and, worth hundreds of millions of dollars and top of his field historically and very well respected in the industry? So what you're saying is I can go do a podcast by myself. Oh, well, yeah, you can have guests on and people. And yeah, well, what does that have to do with my podcast ending with one of the most famous people in the world who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, very well respected, top of his field? What are we talking about here? What does it have to do with me starting a podcast on a YouTube channel. Then what is the motivation for the people who would, again, conventional wisdom, word of mouth? Because yeah, Jason Ellis can do a podcast, and sure, it will get more subscribers than if just whatever random bozo is word of mouthing him were to start a podcast, and his average views per episode will be higher than theirs. But by the standards of somebody coming from a popular, well-received podcast with a very famous, popular co-host who's well-respected, it ain't shit, right? And I took a look, most of his, I think it's 50,000 subscribers. Most of the recent episodes, 3,000 to 8,000 views. Some of them would spike up. And then I'm mentioning this because I only even found out about this thing because it's over. He's ended his show. And in the video that he ended his show, he's talking about that he's in massive debt and the show costs him money. Because remember, you can't, how can somebody come off of a very popular podcast of that level, who pretty much all of the icons of the skateboarding industry went on there. Even some hard to get in-depth interviews of, like, say, Rodney Mullen or something, who I believe was on there a few times. When you have icons, that a lot of popular moments can come out of that. Just Tony Hawk and Rodney Mullen talking for an extended period of time. So he can't go from that to, okay, now he's going to do his own ad hoc, grassroots, fly by the seat of his pants, don't exceed the budget show, right? It's got to be, he has to have staff, he's got to have a director, he's got to have engineers, sound engineers, a studio, whether that's rented space or his own space. It costs money. And that's the idea of, well, when it becomes popular, then the money gets made. I don't know. Is that the reality? Is that what happens? Is that how that goes? Because remember, the people, the word of mouthers, the common sensors, the conventional wisdomers, they have no skin in the game. What do they care if Jason Ellis goes further into debt and does a podcast for a year or however long, only to finally realize, hey, and to continue to do it until there's just no money, right? Like, oh, I can't physically pay the staff anymore. There's no more credit. We can't get more. We've used up all the credit. Because remember, that's a business and an LLC or an S corp, and that has its own business lines of credit. How much is that business in debt? And I've said before, in some of my own content creation, I was paying money to do a thing. It's like a labor of love. It's what I wanted to do, and I was willing to do it. It was somewhat it supported itself, but not fully. So it's like, yeah, I'll pay for it. Same thing with whatever this is. Me coming on here, sort of a grassroots ad hoc, just running my yap. People want to listen to it, great. If not, well, what's a podcast? If people want to listen to it, great. If not, well, they're not listening. Same fucking thing. And who's going to listen? And then if it has to be supported by money, right? It needs to bring in money. Well, where does that come from? YouTube ad revenue. Okay, how many people need to listen per episode? Imagine being Jason Ellis and having no concept of any of that because a bunch of people said, well, you can go do your thing. It's like, yeah, but I'm Jason Ellis. Why didn't I have a thing before the big thing? who, whether purposefully or not, leveraged his friendship with Tony Hawk. They've been friends apparently for many decades, perhaps. And I'm not saying that he overtly did that. Probably Tony's people were his brand management and all of this was probably like, hey man, you pretty much have to do a podcast. YouTube's a big thing. You're pretty much going to have to do that. And then, okay, well, Tony's not going to want to do it by himself. Oh, I know, my buddy Jason, he can't shut the fuck up. He's kind of entertaining. How about he'll co-host? Then why would Jason listen to people who might just assume that because he fell into a good situation, now it's like, hey, you can do this thing or that thing. Oh, can I? Oh, interesting. Well, what was I doing before? Why? What was I doing before? Why does nobody question the word of mouthers? And I listen to some of these judges sentencing people. A lot of it's probation. I don't know what part of the country this guy's from, but there's a judge who I find very straight, very direct, straight to the point. And he really grills some of these people before he puts them on probation. And a lot of the black fellas, they come from this culture of no snitching. So even though the guy's pleading guilty and taking a deal, the judge will start asking, basically, he wants to know the identities of some of the, people he's running with in the streets or whatever. And these guys, it's not just black fellas, the white guys do this too, their own version of it a lot of times, but they just want to be like, oh, such and such. Yeah, who is that? What's his name? Right. It's like, Stinky or whatever. I'm like, what's his name? Bob. Okay, what's Bob's last name? Right? Oh, I don't know his last name. Okay, how do you know Bob? And then it gets to like the judge. It'll basically be the idea of him not knowing this guy's last name is totally absurd, right? And these people never seem quite intelligent enough to figure it out, or they're junkies. When I first started listening, it was a lot of junkies who, they probably are smart enough to understand what the judge is doing, but they are serially incapable of telling the truth. So it's kind of the same thing. Functions the same. So this one yesterday, it's this black guy, and he's running from the cops. And so part of it is he's saying that he's scared to stop, and the cops like is like, because the things that are going on these days, he's like, what things? It's like, oh, the cops are killing people. And he's like, what people? Where? Where is this? It's just hilarious. But they get to the part of the story where, because the guy he doesn't want to snitch on himself, so he doesn't want to admit that the dog chased him down. So he's telling like this version of the story, and the judge is like, "Did they kill you?" And he goes, "Why not?" I just fucking laughed and laughed and laughed. Did they kill you? He's like, no. Why not? And kind of reminds me of this, the word of mouth thing that, Jason Ellis never gets to ask these questions of these people. Like, well, what was I doing before I did this huge podcast with Tony Hawk, who probably paid Jason Ellis, I don't know, by the end of it, $250,000 a year, I'm assuming. At least $150,000. What's Tony Hawk care? His brand people are like, hey, as long as this thing breaks even, we're good. This is more just for the brand, right? They're not worried about it actually being profitable. Whereas, Jason would presumably want to, like, I don't know, earn a living. What does the guy even do? He would presumably want to earn a living from this. I think maybe his wife works or whatever. Hey, Rachel Zinger in the house, and the illustrious King Stephen, aka the Sanity Machine. And so then next thing you know, I'm listening to Jason Ellis with Mayhem Miller. If anybody knows who any of these people are. Jason Mayhem Miller, also just colloquially known as Mayhem, a UFC fighter, retired, now a coach. Just the incomprehensibility of Jason Ellis's discourse, right? And then the idea that he would listen to somebody who would say, hey, well, you can just go do your own podcast. It's like, well, really? I can? Like, I can't even, Jason Ellis, well, he can't even necessarily put two non sequitur sentences together. This guy's all over the place. You think I speak in circles at times? Jump from concept to this guy's off the charts and never bringing it back, never bringing it full circle, never landing the plane. And then Mayhem Miller has this tendency, but he's seemingly able in the final analysis to bring something out of it, right? His own jumping from topic to topic in a very, dare I say, ADHD type fashion. And as evidenced by Adam Carolla, who before Joe Rogan had the world's largest podcast, it was Adam Carolla was number one. Adam Carolla has earned his living from that podcast for many years now, over, 10, 15 years. And see the popo hiding on the off ramp there. The overpass. Probably looking for texter and drivers, or maybe they're working in a team to find some people for DUIs. But either way, well, Mayhem Miller is like the news chick on there now. And I only say that because Adam used to have a co-host that would read the news. Now it's Mayhem Miller, who, again, earns a salary to go onto a show and to prepare news items and talk about them with Adam Carolla. So he has to be capable of a back and forth. He has to be capable of staying on topic. Sure, he's going to go off into left field here and there, but fair enough. Yeah, let's take Jason Ellis, who couldn't focus to save his life, and who's not capable of. And with King Stephen in the house, I think this is important to recognize. And this is not an insult. Most people can't just go live and just talk off the top of their head. Now, some can, like a Jason Ellis, and it's not really going to make any, you can't really make heads or tails out of it. And he's going to sort of, vacillate within himself back and forth and, self-doubt and not really be able to speak authoritatively. It is something of a skill, right? I'm not saying it's any great undertaking, but not everybody is able to do this. So, imagine a world in which I was foolish enough to start taking on business debt, which, unless a person has a legal team and understands the law and accounting, he's probably legally liable. He's probably personally liable for the majority of that debt. I mean, who knows? He could have put his fucking house on. There's people that mortgage their homes or get a HELOC or whatever. They put their house on the line at a relatively high interest rate. to start some business. Sometimes it's content creation. It's like, really? Does Jason Ellis really need to try to continue to leverage fame and fortune and his own, the fact that he fell ass backwards into a podcast with one of the most famous people in the world? How about that would have been the time to make a bunch of money? And maybe Jason Ellis did. Maybe he did TV commercials. I don't know what he did. But I see this podcast and it's just like, oh, he got scammed. And this is where the community becomes complicit in the scam, because the word of mouthers, they're in on it to some extent. And they get some measure. And this is back to the nature of this place, Mr. King Stephen. The demonic aspects of this realm, they're in on it. They love to see him doing the video where he's like, yeah, well, my business failed and I'm in a fucking heap of debt and it's over. And, thank y'all for whatever you done, which was not enough to even pay for a podcast, but it's been real. I'm out. Right. But then, Jason Ellis living in probably Orange County, California, but still Hollywood adjacent entertainer. Who's in entertainment, is somewhat known. He's a politically correct type of guy, but not intelligent enough. He certainly had a lot of head injuries. So he's not intelligent enough to even practice the political correctness properly. And if you listen to King Stephen over at his channels, I believe El Diablo Radio International, also the Sanity Machine. Apologies if I'm unaware of some of this. And I mean the actual details of how to find the channels. He's searchable. You can find him. This is these demons take delight in this. They love seeing a Jason Ellis fall in space, because remember, the demons, they see Jason Ellis up there with Tony Hawk, and they have a feeling of, well, why am I not up there with Tony Hawk? And, an actual real, spirit of what I am, right? The most super intelligent power source and force of love and creation. It doesn't think that way. It has no notion of, hey, Jason Ellis is on a podcast with Tony Hawk and I'm not. See, that's jealousy. That's envy. And when we talk about, when Sanity Machine King Stephen talks about sealing in the demons, my version of that is, well, that's dead, right? Everything that can trace its origins to this realm, this world of death and game of lies, it is by definition dead. And then I grew up with the Bible forced down my throat to some extent in the Bible Belt, in a culture of people who did not understand or could not intellectualize Christianity, but attempting to live it to some extent. So to line it up with the Bible, all they that hate, air quote, and I add part of this, air quotes, so-called God love death. Right? These are the lovers of death. They love this world. They love everything filthy, repugnant, decadent, depraved, sick, twisted, demonic. And they really do feel some type of way when they see Jason Ellis up there with his lack of talent and his incomprehensibility, making money and doing a podcast with Tony Hawk for years. I mean, I don't know how many years they did this thing. It's a long time. It was a big fucking deal, to some extent. The fact that I knew about it and actually watched some of the episodes says something. Of course, I'm somewhere near these fellas' ages. Not that it matters. I actually met and had a conversation with Tony Hawk back in about 1991 when only skateboarders knew who he was. But that's okay. Meanwhile, Tony Hawk, a lot of folks wouldn't know this, but very much hated on. Skateboarding is an industry. Skateboarding as a culture is a lot of haters. A lot of haters, a lot of hating with skateboarding. Tony Hawk was an object of hatred most of his career. Even then, in '91, very polarizing, hated figure. That's this world, man. That's what it does. And so to listen to this world, to listen to the word of mouth, to listen to the common sense, so-called, to listen to the conventional wisdom merchants, that's to be set up to fail. And that's their revenge. Oh, you thought you thought you were the cock of the walk, Jason Ellis. Well, we showed you, didn't we? And those same people will pretend to be his friend. And now, next time he runs into them at the Starbucks or whatever in the OC down there near San Diego, I think that's probably where he lives, or Calabasas or whatever. It's like, hey, man, we saw your podcast ended there. What's next for you? And, oh, well, you could do this, you could do that, you could do the third. They never lack for that conventional wisdom. They always have a suggestion at the ready. They always know what to do. And so, like that judge, why not be like that judge? Just start asking questions. Oh, really? What can I do? Okay, well, how does that work? Could you explain to me the economics of that? What have you done along those lines? Well, if it's such a good idea, why aren't you doing it? And I've asked people that. I finally had a guy that I worked with famously who kept telling me I should go sell vinyl siding. And finally I said, hey, man, if it's such a great idea, why don't you go do it? And to his credit, he did. And of course, it was a total disaster. Because, oh, are you telling me there's something representative of the real thing? Is there something in the spirit of what Benton is that just sort of knows ahead of time that this can't possibly work out? And so therefore Benton avoids it, even though, yeah, it's technically speaking an option. And maybe just that day I was lamenting that we were both working as waiters. I made about $400 a week back then for 6 days, right? And I think he made about the same. He's like, oh, well, go sell siding. And I understood the psychology behind, well, he just doesn't know how to have a conversation. He's wanting to be helpful and solve problems. But it's like, eventually it's like, yo, man, why don't you go sell siding? And that's the same thing as the judge going, did they kill you? Because remember, the guy asserted that the cops are out here killing people. He's like, and then he's like, well, why not? Isn't that what the cops do? They chase down the black man, sick the dogs on him, and then kill him. It's like, or did they just take you into custody like they usually do? Meanwhile, old Benton's been homeless since about 2012, and guess who the cops kill way more than black folks is homeless people. They kill the homeless people more than they kill anybody. And it doesn't matter the gender necessarily, although I guess it's probably more males they're killing. But it doesn't really matter the gender or the race or the creed or the skin color. They always killing the fuck out of some homeless people. That ain't nothing new. Yeah, they love it. They love it here at Sanity Machine. And I listen to a lot of content from the demons love this place. And so if you look at the soul trap, some of the soul trap notions, it's this idea of like, well, if it's this idea that I'm part of it to my understanding, I'm only speaking from my understanding or limited understanding. It's this idea that, what I am would have to be tricked to even come here in the first place. But where is the acknowledgement that some beings, if you actually describe this world of death and game of lies, and you said, yes, it's a vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, A lot of these beings would say, oh, hell yeah, sign me up. How do I get there? Why am I not there yet? Like, how do I get there and how do I stay there? How do I stay there indefinitely? And a lot of what's going on in this world, people may not understand with the transhumanism and all of this. Oh, these people are seeking to make sure that there is no reset. They're seeking to make sure that the current climate continues through the perpetuation, the expansion, and the service of evil, right? And this is where we get into the personality politics. I have no knowledge of anything wrong that Stephen has done to anybody. I have no knowledge or evidence that he's harmed anybody, that he's wronged anybody. Yeah, we can have opinions, and I don't even mean we. Anybody can have an opinion about how he talks, what he says, how he conveys his ideas. That's fine. Interpersonal dynamics. Yeah, I've got my own opinions. Who cares? Anybody that wants to character assassinate, well, it's like, well, okay, what's the man done to anybody? I have no evidence that he's done anything to anybody. Well, what about these demons? The demons they know they're fallen. They know they're wicked. They know they're beyond redemption. And it's in the Bible, right? And I'm not saying to believe the Bible or that the Bible has validity. I'm saying it's borne out even in the Bible. You know, the demons understand that unless proper mechanisms are put into place, that this will end, or this will reset at some point. And then that gets sort of bastardized into the Christian notion of, a judgment and then a paradise and happily ever after, but it's a very much an idea of this world of death because it's tied to notions of sit back, relax, put your feet up, and the being won't really have to pay attention or worry or fight against evil or resist evil. Well, that's an idea of this realm, that it would even be possible to go to so-called heaven and then just relax, rest assured, and just there's always a possibility of evil. There's never not at least the potential for evil. There has to be a potential for evil at all times, in all places. There has to be. See, so part of the lies of Christianity is that, well, do what the demonic man-made religion of Christianity tells you to do, and then now you are authorized and blessed into, now you know where you're going after this life, and it's a life of ease, hanging out in heaven with Jesus and Father God and your so-called loved one, and which never made a damn bit of sense to me, even though I was raised up in that to some extent, or a bastardized version even of that, called the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was scratching my head like, what even is this? And at least the Jehovah's Witnesses, they say, well, yeah, it's actually a paradise on earth, because who would want to go hang out in heaven? Like, what even is that? Like, what's the point of going into this dead flesh, having this dead human experience, and getting sort of so, identified with this world and the human body and all of these things? And then now what, I'm just going to be up in the sky in a cloud somewhere, strumming a harp and hanging out with Jesus? But like, why when I'm here do I have a dick and balls and I want to fuck broads and, I want to play sports and, conquer in certain ways? And like, what about all of that? Why would that being desire to go float around on a cloud? It doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. What are you talking about? Well, that's part of the mockery of this realm. It's making fun, because that's what humans respond to. Oh, just let me float above all of this. Just let me detach from it. And then I'll just, be above it all, and I'll just look down on little Jason Ellis and pat him on the head and go, there, little Jason Ellis, you can go ahead and do your own podcast now, if you're dumb enough to listen to the likes of the Peanut Gallery, which he was, apparently. Foolish. Right. Well, I don't see Sanity Machine out here on some foolish nonsense. Do you see Benton out here on some foolish nonsense? Well, I mean, perhaps from time to time, I don't know. But some would say sleeping in a car and walking around Echo Park, Los Angeles is foolish. Well, fair enough. I mean, I don't know. I seem to make it work for my own purposes at times, but whatever. Meanwhile, the same people who would consider that foolish might say, well, I'd say to them, well, I'm a free American. I'm not hurting anybody. I didn't commit any crimes. I can pass a background check. I'm a law-abiding citizen. And don't I have the right to sleep in a car? And if the locals don't mind, do you think the locals give a fuck if I sleep in a car and walk around all day? As long as I leave them alone. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. Once they figured out I'm not going to let them fuck me, then it's moving on to the next thing. This is those type of folks. They're basically walking around all day looking at stuff going, can I fuck this? Or will this fuck me? For real. I mean, it sounds insane, I know, but there's humans that this is the majority of their life as they walk around and they look at other people like, can I fuck this or can I get this to fuck me? And that's 75% of pretty much everything that goes on. Oh, and if so, how? Because they're infested with demons, and that's what those particular demons are about. So surprise, surprise, you got a bunch of demons who end up in the same area of the country, Southern California, and then they end up being a little more attractive than average because I'm assuming the type of demon who wants to have a bunch of sex would probably do their best. They would probably do their best to end up inside of a slightly more physically attractive human, right? But you'll call me crazy for applying logic to the situation. You're just thinking my way through it. Well, Jason Ellis can't think his way through a situation. Because like most people, he's only able to consider one idea at a time maximum. And so if I was Jason Ellis's friend, I would be observing him. Now, if he told me he's starting a podcast, I probably wouldn't talk him out of it, but I certainly wouldn't suggest it. So I would just be like, well, what I know of you, Jason, is you struggle to put two separate thoughts together. It's certainly not three in a row. So how in the world are you going to do a podcast? Now I understand you had one that Tony Hawk hired you and paid you a salary to sit in a chair and talk. Yeah. Guess what? Anybody's going to take that deal. So I don't know that that's proof of your ability to put two or three ideas together. Right. But there I go thinking for myself again and using logic and reason and deductive reason. Call me crazy. Are you asking me where I'm going, Rachel? Oh, you mean spiritually? Absolutely. Of course. Of course I do. Yeah, absolutely. No, what I am has perfect knowledge of all things. See, this is we get into true knowledge of self / self-realization. Yeah, absolutely. Because until the being knows what the being is, now we're already into delusion. So the only way out of delusion is by true knowledge of self. And that's what the Bible means when Christ said, what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life. No one comes unto, air quotes, the Father. Remember, Jesus would have had to talk in code, y'all. Jesus had to talk in code. So what he meant by the Father, he meant true knowledge of self. Origin. Origin. See? The origin of the being. No one comes out of this delusion and is able to directly access the knowledge of their origin except through Christ consciousness. That's me decoding the Bible for you. And what I am does that in conjunction with John 14:26. I will send the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, and it will teach you all things and bring unto your remembrance. And part of that uncovering and walking the righteous perfected path that lies within is having it brought unto my remembrance. But so within delusion, you get into the Kybalion, Kybalion. All truths are merely half truths. Well, other than what I am. And again, not Benton the performer, not the performance in the context, not Benton the performer in the context of the performance. This is a performance within delusion. That's what so-called air quotes so-called life, which is a breakfast cereal. Mikey likes it. Life, this so-called life, which is what? Sanity machine, a protracted experience of death. What is the flesh? The flesh is dead. Render unto Caesar has the same meaning as let the dead bury the dead. So what I am can't concern itself with paying taxes, because when the tax man, aka the government, shows up, says, "Where's our pound of flesh?" Right? I say, well, I'm assuming you've seized whatever's in my account. So if you decide, see, that's Caesar. Caesar is the tax man. Or the tax man works for Caesar. So Caesar shows up, whether literally or metaphorically or both, says, hey, I need my pound of flesh. That's what Christ meant when he said, render unto Caesar. And surprise, surprise, what is flesh? Well, it's partially fat. What does the word render mean? Well, there is a definition of the word render that involves a processing of animal or human fat. It's all right there in the language, people. Render unto Caesar, let the dead bury the dead. It's the same meaning. And so, in some ways, Christ is acknowledging the nature of the human and the nature of the experience as dead. Now, what's not overtly stated in the Bible, it's implied, is that after baptism, Christ did not work a job, did not accrue tax liability, and did not handle money, aka a threat to the system. That's why the man was executed for sedition by the government. The government put the man to death legally. That was legal. They legally executed Christ. Now people can say, oh, the small hats did that. Okay, fine. It was still legal. What do you mean by legal? I mean the human beings that lived in the local community at a level of consensus said, it's okay with us if y'all go ahead and put that there fella to death. And that's the give us Barabbas, because we like to party with Barabbas and he has sex with us. That fella Jesus, yeah, he hangs out with us and he heals some of us and we feel some type of way when we're around him. And yeah, we're fond of him too, but he doesn't enjoy the carnal pleasures of the flesh with him. So fuck him. Well, actually, that's becomes ironic because he won't fuck us and he won't let us fuck him. So fuck him. What do we need him for? Because everybody here, until proven otherwise, is infested with motherfucking demons. How about that? So in some ways, it's not about do you know where you're going? Do you know where you've been? And do you know where you are? Do you know where you came from? Do you know who you are and what you are? And do you know where you are? And on what basis? Under what circumstances? And if you know all of those things, how many demons have you exorcised out of your dead flesh and out of your energy sphere? And if the answer is zero, why not? Because you won't get right, because you won't confess, you won't repent, you won't seek forgiveness and are forgiveness and am forgiven, meaning absolved as if it never happened, which is what? A state of righteousness. Who can claim a state of righteousness? Benton raises his hand. Really, sir? You claim righteousness? Motherfucker, what I am don't know anything about unrighteousness. What you gonna tell me? What I am doesn't know what you mean by unrighteous or wicked or fallen or guilty. It has no concept of that. So that's where I'm going, Rachel. I'm going back where I am now and back where I came from, meaning this delusory world falls away and all that's left is what I am, meaning there is no time, right? There is no time, space, location, place. Time, space, location, place is delusion, is illusion. Meaning what you think this world is does not even exist. Or more correctly, only exists if the being solves for and reconciles waking dreams, surrealistic unreality, deja vu all over again. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Life is but a dream. A breakfast cereal in a boat being rowed down a stream. Mikey likes it. And that's the realm mocking what I am yet again. So what you gonna tell? And I'm not mad at Rachel. I'm much appreciative of Rachel. I'm making a point. I'm using Rachel's question to make a point. And if people are confused by the way I communicate my ideas, look, this is the limitations of the being. This is how I talk. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not bothered or angry, even if I sound bothered or angry. Little fire and brimstone stylistically goes along with the performer in the context of the performance. It is what it is. And it ain't what it ain't. Of course, I never know, am I even talking to the real Rachel Zinger or not? That's not Rachel's fault. That's YouTube's fault. So really, that's an inversion to even say where am I going? It's not. That's not. It's where is this place? Where is this realm going? See, because what I am is symbolically and literally representative of the real thing. It is the real thing, not Coca-Cola. What I am is the real thing. See. So when I go to Sam Hyde's YouTube, because he does make interesting content from time to time, and his hardcore fans have followed his lead into Christ rhetoric, and so it's a competition to see who can click the video the fastest to type in Christ is King, because that's going to get upvoted every time on his videos. And so I go in there and say, King of what exactly? And they don't even know the answer to that question. So how can they know anything? If they can't answer that question, it's the same thing as the judge saying, did they kill you? Why not? To assert Christ as king, okay, of what? Exactly of what? This world of death? What do you mean? This world of death that put him to death? But it can't put him to death? And then sealed him in a tomb? But he can't be entombed. He can't be corralled or encased. What he is can't ever be hemmed in or captured or contained. And then what did Christ do after being entombed, sealed in a tomb? Buried, whether underground or inside of a mountain or whatever, or a rock face, whatever that is, a cave. What was next? Traveled the underworld. What is that? He transcended death. Within death. So the Christ story is to enter into death and to move through death and to transcend the supposed limitations of death and to come out the other end and say, well, that really wasn't much of anything to be worried about. And then to show himself amongst the people and then, all right, y'all have fun ascending to the heavens. And that also symbolically represents the resurrection and ascension of the risen Christ within the energy sphere of the individual within this delusory and illusory realm. It's a way to describe a spiritual process. It doesn't need to be literal. Although this is the parabolic, they say Christ spoke in parables, it still works if the being takes it literally, if they are willing and able to transcend the limitations of literalism. Because literalism becomes a trap. Any of these things become traps if taken too seriously. Because that's an externalization. It's to say, well, it's to correctly identify internally as worshiper. That's correct. What's incorrect is to seek anything outside of the individual as object of worship, because there can be no meaning, there can be no power outside of what I am. And in the context of this place, right, which again, we must always reconcile, for waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. Space, location, place. Possibility of external meaning. And you're telling me that sounds like nihilism? If a person is telling me that sounds like nihilism, they don't understand nihilism. They don't know what that means. They don't understand. They don't know what they're talking about. So that's to say, again, I'm going to say I'm now the judge going, did they kill you? Why not? It's like, well, wait a minute. Do you even know what nihilism is? Why are you telling me that sounds like nihilism? Did they kill you? Why not? Why are you asking me? Did you talk to the criminal? Why are you talking to me? I'm not the demons that created all of this. I'm the real thing that the demons in this world make an enemy of. That's what I am. This world exists in relation to what I am, and this world makes an enemy of what I am. Tell me not to be arrogant. What I am is so awesome and awe-inspiring and powerful that evil and demonic entities may I am into creating delusion and illusion, and they operate it by influence in a animated death warmed over way. And all of that makes an enemy of what I am. So first step into knowing what's after this delusion is I better know, what is this? It's a delusion. Okay, why? How? Oh, it's a delusion to ensnare, entrap, and to disprove the supreme authority that's contained within what I am. And some people will begin to feel insecure and leave the stream just because I made an error in my own discourse. They say, well, wait a minute. Oh, we're listening to a limited being? Yeah, you're damn right you are. You're listening to Benton, the performer, in the context of the performance, and that is limitation. That is limited. Of course it is. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. Why would it be here? And so this shows humanity's desire to seek external meaning and to seek external power by finding something to follow, and to follow something or someone to a promised land. See? So people want to follow something authoritative to a promised land, and that's the entire function of religion. It fills that gap. It steps into that breach. See? I burned the mate. Tastes kind of good though, burnt. It's toasted. And so when somebody like King Stephen or anybody else begins to critique or criticize this world, well, the agents of this world say, okay, King Stephen, what's your solution? Okay, Benton, what's your solution? I'm glad you asked. I already did it. What do you mean? I've already solved all of this. Really? Well, then why is the world the way it is? What? No, I've solved it within myself on behalf of me for my own purposes. Y'all are all on your own. There's no following me to the promised land. It's the uncovering and walking of the righteous perfected path that's always there from day one. That's why the human sacrifice, that's why babies sacrifice to Moloch's machine, Moloch be a Moloch's machine of industrial and post-industrial society. That is the highest possible sacrifice because that symbolically represents the power, authority, perfection, innocence, value, justice of the spirit of what I am. And then the baby, after being sacrificed, what does the baby do? It undergoes a process of education and conformity and corporatism, whereby the state of mind controls and coerces and compels and psyops and brainwashes and mind controls the being into serving in a corporate structure, everything wicked, evil, and fallen. And that's what it means to make an enemy of what I am. That's what that means. See? And the enemy, or more correctly, that which makes an enemy of what I am, takes all advantage. It always takes the advantage. And the reason why they flip a coin before an American football game is because it's an advantage. Whoever has to have the ball first, meaning, or who gets the ball last, now they get the ball first for the second half of the contest. You know, whatever's an advantage, we're going to flip a coin and it's going to equal out over time. Well, that's not how this realm operates. This realm always takes the advantage over what I am. It always takes the advantageous position, and thus putting the forgetful being, right, bring unto remembrance. The sacrifice baby grows up and doesn't remember what it is. And this realm takes advantage of that forgetting all along the way. See? That's what's going on here. And if a being cannot exactly describe what the fuck is happening here, they don't know what's happening. Now, does the sanity machine describe it in a different way than I? Of course, because he's King Stephen and he's performing. So that's always in the context of his performance within illusion and delusion, with his own particular experiences and all of this. But he is describing and explaining what the fuck is going on in his own way. And until somebody has the ability to do that, why would anybody listen to them? So Jason Ellis proves himself foolish by listening to people who can't explain what the fuck is going on, who will say, when pressed by the judge, will say, well, yeah, I did what I did because the cops are killing people. And the judge is like, who are they killing? Where? Why? How? And then when the criminal says, I fled the cops because they're going to kill me, and the cops chase down the criminal, and the judge says, did they kill you? Okay, why not? Because the criminal asserted that the cops are out here killing people. See? And so this realm says, hey, things are the way they are because of what you are. That's what this world is. This world is to point the finger at what I am and say, hey, buddy, this place is the way it is because of what you are. And that's the gaslighting. See? It's the mockery and the ridicule of what I am. And this world always has to make me and what I am into the guilty one. And I got 2 loads of freight on this trailer, 2 separate loads going to 2 separate customers. And there's a possibility they might both get rejected. That's how janky these loads are. And you know what's going to happen if they get rejected? I'm going to be talked to like I'm the criminal, meaning I'll be treated like I'm the one who is guilty and I'm the one that created that. And if I do anything other than say, why are you talking to me? Did you talk to the criminal? Meaning you're the criminal. What I am is the real thing. I'm above criminality. What I am can't commit crime. So of course what I am is accused in an inverted world. Of course it is. How could it not be? Because the accuser, guilt itself, which really is lack of justice, because remember, this world is based on the lack of what I am. It lacks all of the characteristics of what I am. That's what this world is. That's what Antichrist is. It's the lack of Christ. It's the lack of truth. It's the lack of life. It's the lack of justice. It's the lack of authority. It's the lack of creation. Right? And who's creative? Who's artistic? On what basis? In service of what? In service of whom? Yeah, I can have an opinion on the art of King Stephen. I can't have an opinion on the art of many of the so-called truthers because they don't produce any. They don't create any. Now, we can debate the merits of whatever Benton brings forth creatively. There's something there creatively. This broadcast creative. There's something there. Just like I can have an opinion about the artistic stylings visually of King Stephen, so what? It's an opinion. Same thing. Who cares? But we know the peanut gallery, they're not creating anything because they're not going to put forth their own creation to be judged because they know on some level this world will treat it as if it's guilty. No matter what I produce, no matter what I say, no matter what I do, this world treats it like it's guilty. This world treats it like, and it's right there in the Christ story. The servant is not greater than the master. You saw what they did to me. What do you think they're going to do to you if you produce fruit and allow this world to pass judgment on the fruit of your tree? Huh? Did they kill you? Why not? Because you didn't serve Christ. Did it try to? And what do I mean by serve Christ? Internally. So when yes, worshiper is internal. That's half the picture. That's appropriate. What they don't tell you or what this world lies about, object of worship is always internal. That's a process. That's the continuous renewing of the spirit. My cup runneth over. Worshipper and object of worship contained within the same space. There's nothing outside of me worthy of worship. Nothing! There's nothing, let me say that again. There's no man in the sky outside of myself that's worthy or that should or could be worshiped by what I am. What I am, worship is contained within what I am. And that is a process. Worshipper and worshipee, that is the continuous renewing of the spirit. It's a self-contained system. Perpetual energy machine, if you will. Perpetually creating and expanding and growing and evolving and changing. Much in the way of Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. So in the Bible, the story of Job, in Job chapter 1, have you considered my servant Job? It's like, hey, here's Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. Hey, go ahead and entrust him with the wealth of the family. Give him the wealth of the family. Send him off to buy a cow. Well, wait a minute. Jack's innocent. Jack don't know his head from the hole in the ground with respect to this world. He doesn't know that people might try to rob him and trick him out of his birthright and do this to him and do that to him. He's ignorant of all these things. So, okay, well, he's all we got. Okay, well, hand over the fucking coin purse to him. Send him off into town, but let's warn him, hey, man, look out. Danger lurks behind every corner. He gets to the village. The villagers see that he's a bumpkin and he don't know the fucking lay of the land. They try to warn him. Well, what Jack can't even understand the motherfucking wording because he's so in the spirit of what he is. He's purely and unadulteratedly what he is. And so, of course, he trades the so-called wealth of the family for magic beans. Of course he does. Because Jack knows what the family entrusted him with is dead and has no value. because it traces its origins to this place, which means it can't have any value. It can't represent value. So when Caesar shows up and wants his taxes, he's asking for death. Let the dead bury the dead, render unto Caesar. Oh, okay, here you go, buddy. Meaning, Caesar, if you've already seen whatever, there's money in my pocket. Fucking, he didn't necessarily have to show up for the court case, did he? He didn't have to hang around town and wait around for them to accuse and indict him, did he? He didn't have to. Could have fled, could have hid. Certainly the people would have helped hide him, right? Because they would have wanted that healing and that deliverance and the teaching and the preaching. Of course, the secular small hats didn't have no use for him. They said, give us Barabbas. We want to eat, drink, and be merry and wicked. Well, what are we going to do with Jesus? We can't hang out with Jesus and have a good old time. A secular small hats. Give us Barabbas. We got a live one. That's MAGA falling in love with the ass end of a trailer. There goes MAGA in his pickup truck, trying to hide out from getting a DUI. I had to slow down to 45 and put the flashers on to get him to go around us. Of course, I flipped him in the bird in the mirror because I ain't got to worry about him doing nothing because he's a pussy. See? Now, he's big old, he'll put his chest out and strut around like a rooster rootin' tootin', but he's a fucking pussy. He hides. He ain't got no balls. He ain't got no courage. You can't have a world like this and a man's got a sack of nuts and a man's got balls and a man's got courage. Only way to have this world, America, MAGA, conservatism, you got to have a bunch of pussies for men, or males. I can't even call them men. Who'd rather hide behind this trailer than go face this scary world alone. Well, that ain't the spirit of what I am. They'd rather hide. Well, what I am can't respect that. But it's rootin' tootin' middle America MAGA. They're going to fix everything. They're going to defeat them Democrats. Meanwhile, people think, oh, look at this scrawny Cal Berkeley professor. And next thing you know, that scrawny Cal Berkeley professor's dressed up like Antifa and just went upside that fella's head with a fucking bike lock on a chain. Cracked his fucking skull open, watching him bleed. So you tell me, who's going to get a job done? What's MAGA ever done in his life that's as difficult as obtaining the levels of education that are necessary to even be a Cal Berkeley professor in the first place? Huh? Nothing. Why would I respect that? Oh, but we can laugh and mock and ridicule and Biden's poopy diaper and make fun of a lefty. Oh, you mean a lefty that went into a university system, competed his ass off, and now he's a Cal Berkeley professor? Oh, okay. What did MAGA ever do individually? And that's why MAGA's hiding behind the trailer of this truck. And that's why the Cal Berkeley professor will crack your skull open with a bike lock. Isn't that interesting? Now, part of that is he's reasonably sure that he ain't going to have to serve prison time for it. The state's in on it to that extent. Because remember, the state maintains a monopoly on violence, so there's a reason why the Cal Berkeley professor is able to do that in the first place. So yeah, I'll give you that. And that's literally happened. I'm not making shit up. This has actually happened. And now you're going to see these traditional family values Christians. Oh, they'll complain about the price of eggs, or how are we going to feed our families? And I look at University of California, Santa Barbara. The students burned down the motherfucking Bank of America branch in 1970. That's ours. That's prison time. Right? They said, we don't like this. This is what we do, to a symbol of evil banking. Now, again, I'm not saying they're righteous, but they're at least willing to put their money where their mouth is. What now? I'm expected to support capitalism because, what do you want? Communism? It's like, hey man, listen, if the country allows a communist revolution and takeover, does that reflect on the people, or does that reflect on the actual system of things? What kind of fucked up bullshit system allows and facilitates a communist revolution in the first place? Meanwhile, it's already communist as far as I can tell in this country. So what are we talking about? It's worse. It's like the worst parts of communism and the worst parts of capitalism combined. Why have communism or capitalism when we can have the worst parts of both? That's what it is to be an American. It's to always take the worst of everything and to then just say, oh, well, suck it up, buttercup, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, take all beatings. Because under Christianity, these folks mistakenly are trying to do the thing. They're trying to take up their cross. They're trying to take all the beatings. But they don't even know what they're doing. They lack the understanding of they don't even know what they're doing. Much less what the fuck's going on here. Might be time to start looking for a Walmart. Do my shopping this morning. So part of the Christ story and part of understanding what I am in the context of driving a truck and the delusory realm and the adversarial and the business transaction and the vacuity therein, right? The void, the lack. Part of me hopes that both of these loads get rejected. And then when they seek an explanation, why are you talking to me? How about you look in the mirror, partner? Did I do this or did you do this? Am I not an agent of what you're doing? I'm your agent. Why are you asking me? What is the meaning of this? What's the meaning? You're asking me the meaning of what you done? And you're talking to me like I'm the criminal. You're the criminal, buddy. I'm the agent of a criminal, apparently. This is Benton. Now, again, not I am. That's a violation. So strike that from the record. This is Benton performing as agent. And so now we're into how this will at some point in the future become inappropriate, because the more this is brought unto my remembrance, the more the Holy Ghost, the more the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, teaches me all things. At some point, Benton will no longer be able to handle money. And before that happens, Benton won't be able to work a job, because that what comes along with working a job, even as a contractor, is tax liability. So that's why I suspect Caesar's going to leave me the fuck alone, because Caesar works for this system of death and these games of lies. And this system of death that makes an enemy of what I am wants me to keep handling money. And part of that is it needs to keep me earning money. And part of that is, well, okay, he's figured out the loophole of how to work as a contractor and not pay the taxes. So do we go scoop him up and put him in prison? Or do we just leave him the fuck alone? Because he might on his own figure out to stop working and to stop handling money. So at least this way, we'll keep him handling money. You see how it works? So what's the difference from my perspective? Does it matter to me if these loads get accepted or rejected? Because, see, this is not my offering. Now you get into the biblical ideas of an offering, you know, and one offering is accepted and one is rejected. And supposedly, you know, Father God, man in the sky, right? And, you know, Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau, or whatever the fuck it may be. You know, and you get into birthright and you know, symbolically what is represented by the offering, you know, and now you get into sacrifice on some level, at least the sacrifice of the offering itself, you know, and the value of the offering or the value of the sacrifice and the symbolic value and the symbolic representation. And so if what I am is always creating and expanding and bringing something new into existence in the context of time, space, location, place, and the now it's here, now it's gone, now it's here, now it's gone, would that not then represent an offering? See? So this realm that makes an enemy of what I am is to invert and to subvert and to have the spirit of what I am offering up something that Moloch and his machine and his machinery of industrial and post-industrial society would look upon favor. And that's what Moloch's machine rewards with what? Access to limited resources. Because meanwhile, what I am can never be representative of limitation. What I am will never know limitation. Only within this delusory realm. See? When resolving for waking dreams, surrealistic unreality, deja vu all over again. And if you think I drive this truck and I get out here early in the morning and it's a never-ending series of all sorts of vehicles trying to follow me down the road, there's a reason for that. See? And it's spiritual. And they'll do damn near anything to try to stay back there. But they are the criminal, or they think they're the criminal. Meaning, you know, they're on a schedule, they're trying to get home to mommy. So they don't have the luxury of slowing way the fuck down to stay behind it. because Benton don't want them back there, and Benton's way to get them to not be back there is to slow way the fuck down. And what do they want Benton to do? They want Benton to speed up. They want Benton to perform in a way that suits them, but they want Benton to do that on the boldly out front so they can meekly and timidly follow behind, see, and let Benton fall victim to whatever dangers are up there. And they can go, well, I was just following that fella. I'm not to blame. Blame him. Just got to find a Wally World here. Here's one. See how far away this is. An hour and 16 minutes. All right, is there a closer? Well, here's one up the road a piece. Kind of a small parking lot, though. What town is that? Oh, it's Columbia, Missouri. Yeah, just skip that one. Can't really see how to get in there. Let's see, can I go around the back though? Yes, that's a big old cluster fuck. That is. Yeah, I ain't trying to deal with all that. Yeah, go around, stupid. Can't you see I'm doing a thing here? Well, I can just about get in there though, I think. Let's see. Might give it a try. Of course, they don't open for 30 more minutes. I really don't want to wait around for the fucking store to open. You know you're in the middle of nowhere when it's the Walmarts are this far apart. Yeah, I'll get there about 6:30, 6:45. That'll work. That'll work. This road is fucked. Fifty-five. 55. What if I don't want to go 55? Fuck. Gigantic pothole. Totally unavoidable. Wow. That was so fun. This road is fucked. Brace for impact. Good Lord. I'm very surprised that's even allowed. I'm looking at the lack of traffic out here. It's like it's Sunday morning, and it's like for the last hour, there's never not another vehicle just right on top of me at all times. I got just one just left. They're up ahead. There's another one just on top of me. That's part of the reason I couldn't avoid that pothole. I got somebody on top of me at all times. Again, that's the realm that makes an enemy of what I am. It's on top of me the whole time. It never ceases to attack, 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 attack. It never stops. Even when it seems to stop, it's always attacking. Yeah, why are you back there in the first place? I don't understand. I pass the slow trucks personally. I don't hang out behind the slow truck. That's strange. Canadian plates on the flatbed trailer there. Ontario, I believe. American, a map in Canada was blanked out, just like an outline of Canada. But America was, the normal filled in map. And I said, point to Ontario, which is a province of Canada. How many Americans would be able to do that? It's like, well, here's deductive reasoning. Well, I know Toronto's in Ontario, and Toronto is somewhere in the general vicinity of Detroit. So just there's the border. So I'll just point onto the map in Canada near to Detroit. And, that's probably Ontario. It's not that hard to figure out, folks. So in my world, that's common sense, to take the knowledge I have and to draw some conclusions and to make a guess. But see, there's no such thing as common sense. So I can call that common sense till I'm blue in the face. If I go around here, who's going to agree with me that, it's fairly common sense to be able to point to Ontario on a blanked out map of Canada if the American map is right there and filled in? Oh, no, that's not common sense. Well, it is in my world, not your world. So perhaps we're in different worlds. Perhaps we're never in the same world. And again, this whole time, just on top of me. They're just on top of me the whole time. And the realm knows, well, he wants to get to that. He wants to get to that Walmart. How long am I willing to delay going to Walmart? Because this is my only thing I can do is just keep slowing down. I'm going 50, they're on top of me. I go 60, they're on top of me. I'm going 49. It's just every time I look in the mirror, it's just vehicle after vehicle after vehicle on top of me. There's nothing on the other side of the road. There's nothing's happening out here. It's dead as fuck. It's Sunday morning. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 vehicles on top of me right now. Like, how is this even? This is not possible. This is not real. This experience is never completely real, ever, for one moment. It's not ever completely real, ever. There's always waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. Always. So people say, oh, well, I just want to have peace. Well, you're not going to have it out yourself. You will have no peace outside of you. And so when I look out the window and look in the mirror, that's outside of me. And there can be no peace within delusion, within illusion. The world has a gang lie. This world doesn't know anything but war. This world doesn't know peace. So have you considered my servant Job? Wage war upon him and watch him continue to bring forth the fruit of the peace within him. And if he doesn't, we never knew him anyway, so fuck him. That's how it works, folks. Make the tree good or make the tree rotten. And ain't nobody out here worried about the plight of the rotten tree, now are they? It's dead. Let the dead bury the dead, render unto Caesar. And so that's another thing. Who wants to wake up in the morning and live a life of persecution? It's not even a life, but who wants to have an experience of persecution all day, every day? And when I go to the supercenter, you know, virtually every human I encounter is spiritually attacking me. Think about that. You know, who would want that? Nobody. Now it's not 100%, but it's mostly right. And then the attacks are to varying degrees. And whether they know it or not, whether the human knows it or not, the demons that infest them are seeking to serve their master and to get the attaboy and to please the masters. So part of me recently, what Benton is being taught is to recognize that Benton will always be treated like whatever's going on, it's his fault. He done it. He's guilty. What's the meaning of this? And one of the major ways that's accomplished is the people who interact with me, from their perspective, they act physically above reproach. Everything they're doing is completely appropriate. They're innocent. They bear no guilt. And so anything that goes wrong, if Benton is involved, it has to be Benton's fault. Because it can't be their fault. So it has to be my fault. So from the perspective of the trucking company, they can't be to blame for accepting and scheduling and these loads and dispatching me as their agent. Just like, well, if you try to blame me for not securing the cargo in a particular type of way, okay, why didn't you train me on how you want the cargo secured? Right? How am I guilty for lacking the skills to do that? I've only ever worked as a driver that doesn't handle the freight. No touch freight. Now you want me to touch the freight and to touch it in a specific type of way? Well, I'm willing. But that doesn't mean I'm able or competent. Meanwhile, they're the ones who booked the load, and they're the ones who sent Benton as their agent contractually. Blame me all you want. Did you talk to the criminal? I'm not guilty of these crimes. No. I guess legalese would say, well, you are because you're complicit, Benton. Okay, fair enough. Benton don't give a fuck, and what can they do other than holding back my pay, right? Which isn't even legal anyway. That's not legal. Like, you actually can't legally do that. But they could do it and force me to go to the labor board or whatever. Do you think I would care? In a way, they'd be doing me a favor, because if they don't pay me, I'm not going to keep driving the truck. So if they want to continue to use me as their agent, they have to keep paying me. Because unlike some truckers, if I don't get my paycheck, I'm not going to keep driving. So I don't know what to tell you. They have to pay me from their perspective. So at what point is it an unemployed, penniless, vagabond, no count Benton just wandering around? Well, I chose to live that life for many years for my own purposes. The reality is, at this stage of where old Benton is, that's no longer attractive So we're doing the truck driving to live in the truck, to eat food, to eat proper nutrition. Because I can't do these discourses. Benton can't perform and express in the ways that seemingly he's supposed to. Now, maybe I can, and I just don't know it yet and haven't found out. Maybe that's the next phase. But at least up until this point, I need proper nutrition, some approximation of proper rest, and I need, certain, hope, not that many supplements, but certain supplements prove useful. Clothing, shoes. I'm already suffering wet feet in the snow frequently or regularly because Amazon didn't manage to deliver my waterproof shoes, and I failed to. I could have bought them earlier, but either way, everything arrived that I ordered except for the waterproof shoe. Oh well. Yeah, I already hear the people's minds problem solving. Oh, we'll go here and do that. It's like, well, don't you think I ordered them on Amazon for a specific reason? And maybe I'll make enough time, and maybe I'll have availability of being able to make time when they're open to go to a Cabela's or something. But my ability to access stores that sell appropriate footwear for me is not. It's very limited. The old man is down the road. And somewhere on the list of 20,000+ reasons not to drive a truck, or why most people wouldn't be able to do this job, I've been needing to take a piss for about 20 minutes. There's just nowhere to stop. Period. There's just no possibility of a bathroom break. Oh, pee in a bottle. Yeah, the hypervigilance one. I can't urinate while I'm driving. I'm not able to do that. It's beyond my control. Mark Twain Lake, National Churchill Museum. Mark Twain, a random Churchill. No, Churchill came later. How silly. Jefferson City, state capital. Exit 148. I believe Hannibal, Missouri, somewhere in the general vicinity. Isn't that where Tom Sawyer is set? That Hannibal. All right. Well, here's a truck stop. So we must stop. So I'd like to be able to drive the 50 more minutes to the Walmart. Stop stopping. I think these on ramps and off ramps are not wide enough for me to park on. Let's take a leak. Well, that one may be on the other side, but just go ahead and pull into the old Petro. I remember this one. I think I put air in my trailer tires years ago. Whoa, gigantic pothole. I thought I was dodging it. We did not dodge it. Crashed right into it. Whatever this is, Westland Travel Center. Pull in here. This dead, we're gonna bust the UE and get the fuck out of here. Maybe. One moment, please. BRB. All right, we're back. There's a bunch of spots available. Lots of parking. Yeah, it's the holidays. Still no idea what I'm going to be doing. They love to keep me in the dark. Pretty much every company I've ever worked with just loves to keep me in the dark for whatever reason. I've pretty much learned over time not to even bother asking. They're mostly just flying by the seat of their pants. I'm not sure they know either. That makes two of us. What did I order? There's an Amazon locker where I'm stopping for the day, or at least on that exit in Indiana. Ordered a new wall charger, 45 watt little wall charger deal. A couple of USB cables, charging cables, some $20 earbuds, wireless earbuds. I'm gonna try them out, see if they're any good. Only thing, I can't find any that are loud enough. That's my problem. For truck driving, especially. All right, 45 miles to the Walmart. I'll get there. It says 6:32. Probably take a little longer because I think there's probably more road construction between here and there. But take a look, see what we're dealing with. It's just way better to get this done first thing than wait for the stores to get busy. Oh yes, should be a piece of cake. Should be easy in and easy out. Get in and get out. Yapping for 2 hours. How about that? Well, not too much going on. Otherwise, slept pretty good last night. They got pretty decent laundry facilities at that truck stop I was at last night. I definitely lacked the motivation at the end of the day to try to figure out what could I get done. How about I just chill out? And I would argue that doesn't a person need to have a couple of minutes to chill out here and there? Just this constant flurry of activity. Oh, I finally managed to get the tires aired up on the truck yesterday. See, that's 45 minutes to do something like that. Just check and air up. Although they didn't all need air, but you got it's at 8 on the track, 8 on the drives, and 2 on the steers. So that's 10 tires on the tractor. Both steer tires were low. I was a little surprised about that. They were like 85. They're supposed to be 115. But only a few of the drop tires were low, and they weren't that low. It's funny, man, because there's a phenomenon in truck driving. You got these hot shot, they call them, where they're just like heavy duty pickup trucks, which is, hate to break it to MAGA and people who love pickup trucks, but that's a light truck. That's what that's called, legally and categorically. You understand it's a Ford Super Duty or whatever. It's a light truck. Whereas what I'm driving is a Class 8 heavy duty tractor. Heavy duty. They're driving it. So it's a heavy duty light truck. and they haul freight with it. A lot of them do flatbed. I guess it's mostly flatbed. Now that I think about it, maybe some far hauling. And sometimes it's these husband-wife teams who are new to the industry. Sometimes it's the woman who's all just, she needs a hobby or whatever. It's her idea and she's into it. It's funny because here I am, I stop. I finally find a place that actually has air. And, I've got these wheel covers for air. It's so stupid they put air covers over the drive tires to try to save on aerodynamics. And I promise you, it saves no money. Serves no money whatsoever. In a year, maybe $5. Nothing. Who cares? But either way, so I got one of those off. I'm down there. It's a pain in the ass even checking the air on these because the inner tires, it's hard to get to. You got to try to get the cap off the fucking stem. Right, my gigantic fucking hands trying to squeeze them into these limited spaces. It's a whole thing. And I just get started, and first thing I do, this ain't my first rodeo. I go and check out and make sure that the air even works, because just visually seeing an air hose, that don't mean anything. Well, there's not like one air hose per customer. It's like they put one air hose to where two different people can get to it. And meanwhile, if you just stop for fuel, and even if there's air, it ain't that often that I'm getting fuel and I look over and somebody's next to me getting air, right? And I don't like being around these pickup trucks anyway. Like if I'm at a rest area, if I'm at a truck stop, something about some bozo in a light duty truck being that, it just bothers me. I don't want to be near them. We're not the same thing. We're not doing the same job. It reminds me, I tried to talk to one of these, the guys in West Virginia that hauls coal. He wouldn't talk to me. And it's like, okay, I was just going to ask him a question, but fair enough, buddy. I get it. Like, I'm not, what you're doing is not what we're doing. Two very different things. And he probably doesn't respect what I do. I don't care. It's completely fine. But, he clearly didn't want to be around me. And I just happened to be parking for the night where he was going to work. I was done for the day. He was about to start work. And I just wanted to ask, hey, man, do you think I'm good to park here? And you never know when somebody's going through personal problems or I have no idea. But he clearly avoided talking to me. It was obvious I was going to try to ask him something, but I'm not offended. It's like, yeah, guy's not under any obligation to talk to me. So just like I'm not, if I look, I'm kind of squatted down, checking the air pressure, and I notice a pickup truck is pulled up, and it's 99 times out of 100, whoever pulls up there it's just nothing but big rigs. And maybe somebody who works locally in an actual heavy duty truck that's not quite a big rig, but no, it's some pickup truck. So I'm already thinking, man, I just got here. Should I move? I want to get away from this person. But I kind of cocked my head, and it's some chickie grinning like a fool, and she's going for the air hose. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And meanwhile, when I rolled up, it was dead, was nothing happening. There was not a single vehicle at the pumps. It's deader than a doornail. Now look up, here's this broad right next to me. Meanwhile, there's at least two other pumps that have air. Why is she pulled up there, and why is it now all of a sudden it's communal airing up of the tires? It's this idea of the water cooler, or the community aspects of the local watering hole. And then at a certain point, that became a way to refer to a bar. The local watering hole, right? So now this is the activity is we're all going to communally air up our tires. Meanwhile, there's only one air hose. she's going for it. So it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Now, sure, we could share the air hose, but now the next thing you know, what are we going to be doing? Shooting the shit? Why? For what? I said, fuck it. I just pulled out, drove around, and went to a different. I just went to a different phone. Fuck this. And it wasn't her fault because it probably would have happened anyway. But in the course of all that, when I was bent down dealing with the tires, this is a very undiagnosed fake autistic thing. We neurodivergent people manage to hit their heads way more often than we manage to accidentally bump our heads way more than the general public. So I managed to stand up really quick and fucking crack my head pretty good on the underside of the trailer. Got a bit of a knot this morning. Rang my own bell a little bit. Kind of half fell down, like kind of half fell on my butt a little bit, but caught myself. A little dazed. Stunned me. No, didn't black out or anything. I've had a few pretty serious. I had my bell rung pretty thoroughly a few times. This wasn't too bad, but some version of brain trauma, I'm sure. I do have a rather thick skull, though, fortunately. Unlike usually, I didn't even manage to cut myself. Usually, I hit my head so fucking hard. If I hit it on the rig, especially, I usually cut myself. But it's just we've got a little bit of a knot. Nothing too crazy. One time, I was ducking my head under to check the coupling between the tractor and the trailer, and just misjudged it. Head butted the fucking bottom of the trailer on the side, and I'm pretty sure I knocked myself out briefly. I fell all the way onto my back. I'm pretty sure I was out for a second or two. Cut my fucking head. It's the whole thing. Bam. Have one of them, buddy. And then, of course, I hit it again the same way, just not as hard. And so common sense would be, just something about neurodivergent people. If we'll hit our head in a particular scenario, we'll do it again. I don't know why that is, but a lot of times I've hit my head repeatedly. And I watched this, that World of T-shirts, that Josh Block, little cow. He's autistic as fuck. And somebody took him golfing one day and he hit his head getting in and out of the golf cart like 20 different times. Like, not a kidding. He just kept doing it over and over and over. It's like, I can recognize I have less of that than he has, but I've got a little bit of it. But anyway, I think it's time for some grapes. So please forgive me for eating on stream. I probably should wait a little longer after having the egg yolks, but it'll be all right. Oh yeah, red grapes. I'm starting to notice in the advertising and the billboards, some of the slogans for these companies. I can tell that there's people are starting to use AI to write a lot of that stuff. But I can just look at some of this advertising. I'm like, no human's brain came up with that. People don't think that way. Because it's usually asinine. Like that billboard said 5 billion star resort. And a lot of the billboards now, especially for these lawyers, they've started putting like 5 stars. It kind of looks like a Google review or whatever. 5 stars out of 5 stars. So it had the 5 stars, but then it had a night sky and it had a picture of the resort, like basically a hotel, like a rustic hotel. And then it had this, a bunch of stars in the sky in the picture. But, mostly people are it just looks like they're saying that their resort is rated 5 billion stars, or that that's the total number of 5-star reviews or whatever. It's asinine. I'm telling you, people don't, whoever's coming up with advertising, the human mind just doesn't think that way to come up with something like that. That's AI did that. Or they created that with the help of AI, I guess more accurate way to say it. They're some silly human. They chose amongst a bunch of suggestions and eventually got to that. And refining it and refining it and refining it. Fucking stupid. And partially because humans are no longer processing data, Americans at least, and can't put 2 ideas together, most of them. What passes for their level of thinking, AI is going to change the way people think, for sure, like undoubtedly. In some ways, the people's brains, it's going to become AI. Well, it's already happening. It's already happening. times. Shout out to Red Grapes. And without truck driving, I can't say that there won't be $10 worth of fruit. 'Cause I'm basically eating $10 worth of fruit a day. But if that's going to continue beyond truck driving, I don't know how it's going to happen. I can't say that it won't. I'm pretty sure I'm over $10 a day in drinking water. Since I make enough money, I might as well get the good shit. Right. Now we're on to the blueberries. If I woke up about 2, definitely could have went back to sleep, but most of the time, if I wake up, and I mean like wide awake, generally we wake up a bunch of different times, but don't necessarily remember. But I was pretty awake. Body was still resting though. The body, I could tell, was still at rest, but my mind was wide awake. And usually, if I go back to sleep, I don't. I'll wake up the next time I don't. I kind of feel like shit. So I'm glad I went ahead and got up. Hmm. 18 more miles. All right. Goodness. Goodness gracious. Well, I guess the stream's about over. Thanks for watching. Bye.